people, getting into reading can be daunting, whether it's choosing which books to read or slowly checking off must-read literary classics or fully understanding the writing, the symbolism, or the historical context. One author is stepping in to help you out. Great Short Books promises to help readers with some common book-choosing dilemmas. Author Kenneth C. Davis, my long-lost cousin, is here and joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It is a great pleasure, Lindsay. Thanks for having me. And no relation as far as I know.
That's right. We don't know. Many people, though, will know you from your Don't Know Much About series. So how did you decide now that you were going to put this compilation together of the best short books?
Sure. I have lived a life in books, even though most people would know me as a historian. I've written about, don't know much about history. I've written about American presidents who enslaved people. I wrote about the Spanish flu pandemic a few years ago. But to me, it was always the story in history. It wasn't dates and battles and speeches. And as a lover of books since the time I was a small child, I needed to do something during the pandemic to take me out of what we all call doom scrolling. This dreadful news every day, plus the sense of isolation, the sleeplessness. And I found a real treasure by going back to reading fiction. And because our attention spans were short, I focused on short fiction, books of 200 pages or less that could be read in perhaps one sitting, but certainly within a week. And so I read 58 books, hence a year of great reading.
And so then how did you ultimately decide which ones you were going to include? Did you go by author first or story first, or and because it's a really wide variety and quite a mixture that you have here?
It is a wide variety, and I specifically set out to include a wide variety. First of all, an equal number of male and female writers. They're equally divided. I also wanted to read books that I had read before, to go revisit them, because there's a real value to rereading a book from your childhood perhaps you've read, or maybe something you were assigned in school and you hated it then. I can tell you that reading The Old Man and the Sea, for instance, which is in the book, when you're 16, and reading it when you're 60 is a very, very different experience. This story of this old man who catches this fish and what becomes of it. So the process was actually culling through hundreds of books. I read many more books than the 58 I finished with, but I really wanted an interesting collection of diversity.
And you write, a novel is a measure of the times in which it is written. And I'm curious which ones you feel, even though they may have been written perhaps centuries ago, still reflect the current times?
That's a really great and important question, and I wasn't thinking about it so much while I read the books, but as I was going along, it became more apparent that, for instance, a book like Animal Farm, George Orwell's allegory of Stalinist Russia, speaks very much to our own time when democracy is under threat. A book like James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk is about a young black man in the racially charged, racist justice system. Written 60 years ago, it again could be written last week. So many of the books, even if they're written 50, 60, or 150 years ago, really do reflect what's going on in the culture and what's going on in the country today. And that's what great fiction does. So many of these 58 writers that I included were banned, censored, some even burned in their lifetime and later. We have to understand that reading is essential to the preservation of democracy. And
one thing that I think is curious that I wanted to ask you about, because you're not just a curator in the sense that you're compiling all of these books, but you actually give, you know, the first line, the context about the author, and I'm just wondering why you feel that that is so relevant. Why not just present the books cold, if you will?
Well, I guess to me, the first lines are really important, because
I pick my books by the first line.
Yes,
I don't know what that says about me, but you gotta bring me in.
And with a short book, I think it becomes even more important. The words are so compressed. You have to, every word is so special in a short book. So the first lines are there to really grab us, even if it's something as simple as, "Where's Papa going with that axe?" which is the first line of Charlotte's Web, which people will say, oh, that's a children's book. Yes, it is a children's book, but it's a perfect book, and I read it almost every year, and I still weep when I read it. It's a perfectly written book by E.B. White. So what I wanted to do was not just present the stories and a little bit of biography of the authors to place them in their context. It's so important to understand.
Before I let you go, favorite book of all time?
Well, it's in there, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. It's the book that I think changed me. I believe it made me think I could be a writer, even though it took me a long time to understand that I could be a writer. It's about mythology, it's about writing, it's about discovering who you are, and it's one of the greatest books of all time.
Kenneth C. Davis, we thank you so much. We want to let our viewers know Great Short Books is now available wherever books are sold.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.